So, George, we usually like to break up the podcast into 3 acts, but since your filmography is so extensive, this will be more like This Is Your Life.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
No, but for real, it's like you're trying to pick one book. You have like a million, like When It Was a Game, and all the way through. Like we couldn't just pick one, so we kind of got to go through it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, George, where did you grow up, and where did your love for sports and storytelling intersect?
I actually grew up in North Jersey. I was one of 5 kids. My parents were both avid sports fans, and they were both New Englanders. So my mom was from North Andover, and my dad was from Salem. So kind of grew up in a kind of on a hybrid sports family. Like we loved the Mets, but we also loved the Red Sox, and like Yaz and Bobby Orr and Larry Bird and all. They were kind of my heroes, even though I was in New Jersey, because I had that connection to my family, and I'd go visit my cousins up, and we'd go to Red Sox games. And it was just sort of one of these things where just through the years, the love of sports, particularly Boston and New York, just remained a part of me, which was sort of an odd combination to have, particularly among some of my friends back then.
So was there a professor, a teacher, or somebody that sort of helped transition you into film? We found that the common thread has been there's been a role model or a mentor. Who was that person for you, if it existed?
Well, it's kind of an interesting question, because when I graduated from high school, I really had no idea really kind of what I wanted to do. I mean, I was a huge sports fan. I love movies and I love music and I kind of love pop culture, and kind of was a typical teenager, and I didn't really know what to do. So I actually went to the same college that my parents had gone to, because unlike kids today where the college thing becomes such a big experience and kids have tutors and they're going on trips and they've got, the pennants of the schools on their walls in their rooms. I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went there for a couple of years and kind of felt things out. And I just kind of had the itch. I was involved in the radio station at school, and I began to kind of become more interested in things beyond what I was doing. And I thought, I'd like to get into television or movies. And at first I thought maybe I wanted to get in behind the camera, like a news person or something. And so I went to Emerson College after I graduated, and still at that point, sports and Emerson really didn't mix. It was much more of a kind of a liberal, very progressive school at the time, small. Met some good friends there. And just by happenstance, I was home one summer and I ran into an old buddy of mine down at a softball field, and he was working for Major League Baseball Productions in 1983. And he said, hey, drop me a line after you graduate and I'll hook you up. So I called him and he brought me in, and the rest is history. I started there in May of '83, sort of as a viewer, like sitting there in a stool, like viewing highlights and marking things for the producers, great plays, bloopers, and the like, cutaways. And things just took off. And I think you asked the question about role models. I think I was lucky and fortunate to have started at MLB, because at the time there were some really, really great people there who went on to do really great things. There was Mike Tolan was there, Gary Cohen was there, Chris Martins was there, who's an ESPN guy, Willie Weinbaum, whom you guys most likely know it, Mark Duran, Joe Levine, Sean Mooney, Chris Chambers, all these guys went on to do great things. And I was dropped in the middle of this environment, and you just couldn't help but learn and be around these guys. And MLB at the time was an unusual place because they encouraged you to do everything. You went out in the field, you edited, you wrote your own pieces. It was not like coming up at a network where you were kind of, you had a department or a compartment. You were expected to do everything. And at the time it was a bit overwhelming, but looking back at it, it was kind of the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because I kept the editing piece as a part of who I was throughout my entire career. And I enjoy that part of the process more so than any. And if I wasn't at MLB at the time, I probably would have been pigeonholed as a field producer or as a line producer or something, where back then we were, here's your yellow pad and do the show, and so that was it.